I used to believe memory was a kind of shelter. When the world pressed too close, when nights stretched longer than they should, when decisions felt heavier than their consequences, I would retreat into the familiar. Her voice in the kitchen, the way afternoon light bent around the window frame, the quiet certainty that some things were fixed simply because they had always been there. That belief lasted longer than it deserved. We met the way most people do, without ceremony. A shared routine, a shared silence that didn't ask to be filled. Love, if that word still means anything, grew sideways, through habits rather than declarations. She remembered what I forgot. I anchored what she let drift. We told ourselves this balance was choice. Looking back, I can't pinpoint when the first inconsistency appeared, only that it was small enough to dismiss. She would recall events I couldn't place, conversations we had apparently finished, decisions we had already made. At first I assumed exhaustion, stress, the quiet erosion that time inflicts on everything. When I corrected her, she would pause, just long enough to make the air feel dense, and then laugh it off. "You always forget that part," she said once, smiling. Her tone wasn't teasing. It was patient, as if she were waiting for something to align. I began keeping notes, not because I was afraid of losing my memory, but because I wanted to preserve it. Dates, places, the order of things. The notes reassured me for a while, until I noticed the handwriting. It was mine, mostly, but certain entries, entire lines, carried a pressure I didn't recognize. The letters leaned at wrong angles, converging too tightly, like they were trying to become something else. Reading them made my temples throb. I learned quickly not to stare for long. Around the same time, the dreams began. Not nightmares, nothing so obvious, just repetition. The same horizon under different skies, stars arranged in ways that felt almost deliberate, though never symmetrical. I would wake with the sensation of having missed something important, not forgotten, but skipped. Once, half asleep, I asked her if she ever dreamed of places she didn't recognize. She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, heavy enough that I opened my eyes. She was watching me, not with concern, but with something closer to confirmation. "You're remembering faster this time," she said softly. I laughed, because that's what you do when someone says something that doesn't fit. She laughed too, a second later, as if she'd nearly misspoken. But that night, as she slept, I stared at the ceiling and felt an unfamiliar pressure behind my eyes. Not pain, orientation, as though something vast had shifted imperceptibly, and my thoughts were adjusting to the new angle. I told myself it was nothing, that we were fine. That love, after all, is built on shared memory, and memory can be trusted. I did not yet understand that memory was the first thing being rewritten. The notes stopped helping. I didn't realize it at first. Habit is a powerful anesthetic. You keep doing the same thing long after it has lost its purpose. Every morning, I wrote the date. Every evening, I reviewed what I had written, reassuring myself that the sequence of events still obeyed cause and effect. But sequence began to loosen. Some entries no longer matched the day they were written on. Not wrong exactly, misplaced, a conversation recorded before it happened, a decision documented that I distinctly remembered postponing. When I tried to reconstruct the order, my thoughts slid off the timeline like water over glass. I asked her about it once, casually, pretending curiosity. "Do you ever feel like time stacks instead of flows?" I said, stirring my coffee. She paused mid-sip. For a moment, her gaze unfocused, not away from me, but through me, as if checking something positioned just behind my eyes. Then she smiled, a fraction too slow. "You always notice that part first," she replied. My stomach tightened. "What part?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Nothing. You're overthinking again." That word, again, lodged itself in my skull. I wanted to ask what she meant by it, but the question slipped away before it could fully form. In its place came a dull pressure, like altitude sickness. I finished my coffee without tasting it. The world outside remained stubbornly ordinary. Trains ran on schedule. Emails arrived, demanding the same responses they always had. Friends spoke in predictable rhythms. If something was wrong, it was deeply personal, contained within the narrow space of my perception. And yet, certain places began to feel resistant. The stairwell at work seemed steeper than it should be, each landing a fraction too short. When I stood there too long, vertigo crept in, not the spinning kind, but the sensation that depth itself was miscalculated. I learned to move quickly. At night, the dreams returned with greater insistence. Not images, layouts, vast structures without scale, composed of angles that refused to stay fixed. I would follow corridors that folded inward, only to realize I was moving outward instead. Stars appeared where ceilings should be, arranged in patterns that felt purposeful but not aesthetic. I began waking with my jaw clenched so tightly it ached. One morning I noticed something new in the notebook, a diagram. I had no memory of drawing it. Lines converging, not symmetrically, but intentionally. The angles made my eyes water. Beneath it was a single sentence, written in that unfamiliar, pressure-heavy script. "This is where you started noticing." My hands shook. I turned the page. The next page was blank, except for an indentation, as if something had been written there once, then erased so thoroughly only the memory of pressure remained. When I looked up, she was standing in the doorway. "You shouldn't push yourself," she said gently. "You know what happens when you do." I stared at her. The room felt suddenly smaller, the walls leaning inward by imperceptible degrees. "What happens?" I asked. She stepped closer, her voice soft, almost tender. "You remember out of order." She reached for the notebook. I let her take it. As she closed it, I realized something with a quiet, sinking certainty. She wasn't worried about me losing my memory. She was worried about me finding the wrong one. I stopped writing things down, not all at once. At first, I just missed a morning, then two. It felt safer that way, as if recording events gave them permission to exist. Without the notebook, the days blurred. That should have scared me. Instead, it felt like relief. Silence filled the gaps, heavy, comforting, wrong. At night, the apartment settled around us. Pipes clicked, the refrigerator hummed. Somewhere far away, a siren rose and fell. Normal sounds. Too normal. She slept beside me, breathing slow, even, timed. I counted without meaning to. Inhale, pause. Exhale, pause. The rhythm never changed, not once. I turned toward her. The darkness was thick, not black, dense, like fog without moisture. I whispered her name, very softly. She didn't respond. Her breathing continued, perfect. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep. It didn't come. Instead, pressure did. Behind my eyes. Not pain. Alignment. As if something inside my head was being nudged, adjusted. I tried to think of my childhood home. The front door. The smell of dust and old books. The memory slid sideways. The door opened the wrong way. The hallway was longer than it should be. I stopped. My heart was beating too fast now. I focused on the room, the bed, the wall, the window. Outside, the city lights flickered. One building across the street had a window lit. Just one. I watched it. Minutes passed. The light did not move, did not dim, did not flicker. It was like a hole punched through the night. I felt the urge to stand. Didn't. Beside me, her breathing changed. Just slightly. A longer pause. I held my breath, waiting. Her voice came out of the dark. Not loud, not soft, perfectly placed. "You're closer tonight." My skin went cold. I didn't turn, didn't answer. Seconds stretched. Then she sighed, as if disappointed. Her breathing resumed, in time again. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. When sleep finally took me, it wasn't a fall, it was a slide, down something smooth, endless. And just before waking, I heard my own voice, from somewhere else, finishing a sentence I hadn't started. Morning came without arrival. Light seeped in, thin, uncommitted. The room felt staged, like it had been reset while I slept. She was already awake, standing by the window, not moving. Her silhouette cut clean against the glass. I watched from the bed, didn't speak, didn't breathe right. Outside, traffic murmured, distant, filtered, as if underwater. She said my name, once, not a question. I sat up. The floor was cold, too cold for summer. Each step felt measured, not by me, by something else. In the kitchen, the clock read 7:18. I knew it was wrong. I didn't know why. Coffee brewed. The machine clicked. Paused. Clicked again. The sound felt deliberate, like punctuation. She set a cup in front of me. The steam rose. Straight. No drift. No curl. I stared into it. For a moment, I thought I saw lines. Angles. I blinked. The steam was normal again. She watched me, not my face. My hands. "You didn't dream," she said. I didn't answer. The refrigerator hummed, then stopped. The silence after was heavy, thick. I felt it press against my ears, my chest. I asked her what day it was. She smiled, just enough. "Still this one," she said. I nodded, as if that meant something, as if it helped. When I left for work, the hallway felt longer. Not wider, longer. The lights flickered in sequence. 1, 2, 3, like counting. At the elevator, my reflection lagged. A fraction of a second. Enough to notice. Not enough to trust. I looked away. On the street, people passed. Too close, too aligned. Their footsteps fell into rhythm. Not the same rhythm, a shared one. I heard my name again. From behind me. From ahead. From nowhere I could point to. I didn't turn. At the office, my desk was clean. Too clean. The notes I remembered writing were gone. The monitor was on. A single file open. Untitled. Blank. Except for one line. Centered. Waiting. I didn't remember typing it. I knew the words anyway. "You are almost in phase." My hands hovered above the keyboard. The lights dimmed, just a little. Someone laughed far away. The sound echoed. Once, then again. Out of sync. I felt the pressure return. Behind my eyes. In my teeth. In the space between thoughts. The cursor blinked. Patient. Expectant. I realized then whatever was coming had already started, and it knew how fast I read. I didn't type anything. I closed the file. The screen stayed bright, empty, like it was waiting for me to reconsider. Around me, the office breathed. Air vents sighed. Keyboards tapped. Phones rang and stopped ringing. All of it felt distant, muted, as if the sounds were passing through a layer before reaching me. I stood up. My chair rolled back farther than it should have. No one looked up. That felt intentional. The hallway lights were on. Every one of them. No flicker now. Just steady white. Too steady. As I walked, my footsteps sounded delayed. Not an echo, a correction. Like the floor was adjusting after each step. In the stairwell, it was colder. The concrete smelled damp, old. I paused on the landing, listened. Nothing. Then, a soft vibration. So low I felt it more than heard it. It seemed to come from below, from above, from inside the walls. I rested my hand on the railing. The metal hummed. Not loudly, consistently. I pulled my hand back. My skin tingled, as if it had been pressed against something alive. Outside, the sky looked wrong. Not stormy, not clear. Flat, like a backdrop stretched too tight. Cars moved, people crossed streets, everything behaved. That made it worse. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. The time changed while I watched it. Not forward, sideways. I put it away. At home, the door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I stood there for a long time, hand on the handle, listening. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. No hum, no pipes, no distant city. When I stepped inside, the sound returned all at once. A rush, like pressure equalizing. She was in the living room, sitting, hands folded in her lap. Lights off, curtains drawn. "You're late," she said. I checked the clock. It agreed with her. I didn't. She tilted her head, studying me, not my face, the space around it. "You felt it today," she said. I swallowed, asked what she meant. She smiled. Not kind, not cruel. Certain. "The adjustment," she said. I sat down slowly. The couch dipped, too much, as if something else sat beside me, unseen, heavy. The floor creaked. Once, then again. Not beneath us, behind the walls, above the ceiling, below the building. She reached out, stopped short of touching me. Her hand hovered, shaking, for the first time. "You're almost ready," she said. I opened my mouth. To ask what for, to ask who decided, to ask if this was happening now, or if it always had been. She leaned closer and whispered a word I didn't recognize, but my body did. Every muscle tightened, every thought went still, and somewhere deep inside me, something answered back. I didn't sleep. I don't think she did either. The note stretched, not long, wide. Every sound felt spaced too far apart. The clock ticked, then paused, then ticked again. I stopped counting. At some point the city returned. Distant engines, a horn, wind moving between buildings. The sounds felt rehearsed, like a recording played to reassure someone. I lay still, eyes open. The ceiling above me seemed closer, not lower, closer, as if it leaned in when I wasn't looking. I tested my fingers. They moved. That helped. A little. Beside me she shifted. The mattress responded slowly, too slowly. I felt the dip travel toward me, like a wave. She didn't touch me, didn't need to. Her presence pressed against my thoughts, crowded them. I tried to remember her face, not how it looked now, before, the first time we met. The image refused to settle. Features slid, edges softened. Every version felt almost right. None of them stayed. She spoke again, not loud, not close. I remember when you agreed. My throat tightened. I asked her when. The word came out thin, fragile. She didn't answer. Instead, she breathed out, slow, satisfied. The room responded, a faint vibration, like before, but stronger. The walls didn't shake, they listened. I felt it then, a pulling, not forward, not back, inward, like my thoughts were being gently aligned, straightened. I fought it, not with strength, with memory. My name, my childhood room, my father's voice, each one flickered. Then rearranged, I realized something. I had been remembering wrong things, safer things. The real memories were underneath, waiting. I heard footsteps in the apartment above us. Slow, measured, too heavy. They stopped directly overhead. She turned toward the sound, smiled. They're sinking, she said. I asked who. She finally touched me. Just one finger, to my wrist. My pulse stuttered, then fell into a new rhythm. Not mine. Her voice lowered, almost reverent. Don't worry, she said. You won't have to choose this time. The footsteps above us began to move again. Not away, down, through the ceiling, toward us. And I understood. The sound wasn't coming closer. It was already here, waiting for me to notice. I don't remember standing up. I was on my feet anyway. The room felt taller, not larger, stretched, as if the ceiling had learned a new distance. The air was thick. Each breath arrived late. She watched me carefully, like someone watching a process finish. The footsteps stopped. The vibration didn't. It settled, into the walls, into the floor, into me. I asked her if anyone else could hear it. My voice sounded wrong, too even, too calm. She nodded once. They hear it when it's time. I moved toward the hallway, slow, careful. Every step felt permitted, not chosen. The door at the end stood open. I knew it had been closed. The darkness beyond it was deeper, not black, layered. I felt a pressure in my ears, like altitude, like descent. I stopped. The floor beneath my feet hummed, softly. The sound matched my pulse perfectly. Behind me she spoke. You're doing well. That frightened me more than anything else. I asked her what would happen if I didn't go further. The question felt distant, like something I used to care about. She didn't answer right away. Then, there isn't a version where you don't. The walls shifted, not visibly, internally. I felt it in my teeth, in my spine, in the space behind my eyes. The hallway lengthened, not away from me, toward me. I realized then the building wasn't changing. I was. Something in me was being tuned, brought closer, aligned. I reached the doorway. Inside, the room was empty. No furniture, no windows, just floor, just walls, just a faint, impossible sense of depth. I stepped inside. The hum stopped. The silence that followed was immense. Not absence, attention. I became aware of myself as a shape, a pattern, something measurable, something expected. Behind me, the door closed. I didn't hear it. I felt it. A shift. Final. and in the stillness, something vast adjusted, as if noticing me, for the first time, or remembering me. And I knew, whatever I had been before, was no longer required. There was no light, not darkness either, something between, a thickness. I stood still, I didn't know how long. Time felt folded, compressed. Breathing echoed inside my chest. Too loud. I tried to slow it. The air resisted. I became aware of a sound, not from a direction, not external, a low resonance, like a distant engine, like the ocean heard through bone. It pulsed, once, then again. Each pulse felt closer, not spatially, conceptually. I thought of my name. It surfaced, then slipped, like it had lost weight. I tried to remember her voice, the real one. Before it laned new tones. The memory fragmented. Pitch without words, warmth without source. The room responded. The resonance deepened. I realized the sound wasn't approaching. It was aligning, matching something in me. I felt pressure along my spine, gentle, persistent, as if invisible hands were adjusting posture, not forcing, correcting. I wanted to scream. The urge arrived late, muted, as if screaming was an outdated function. Images surfaced, not visions, impressions, angles, distances without units, a sense of vast surfaces intersecting, slowly, deliberately. I understood something then. This place was not built. It was remembered, and I was part of the memory. The resonance shifted again, a new frequency. My thoughts began to arrive preformed, finished before I noticed them. I realized I had felt this before, in dreams, in moments of certainty, in love. That tightening, that sense of inevitability. I wasn't being taken, I was being returned. The air grew denser, the sound dropped lower, so low it vanished, and in the silence, I felt a presence, not watching, not waiting, calibrating, as if deciding how much of me still fit. The silence didn't end, it settled, like dust, like ash. I was aware of my body again, not all of it. Pieces, weight without shape. I tried to move my hands. Something moved. It wasn't clear what. The pressure eased, not gone, adjusted, as if a setting had been accepted. The resonance returned, fainter now, background, like a system running once it no longer needs attention. I became aware of distance, not space, difference, between what I was and what I was close to becoming. Thoughts came slower, carefully. Each one felt inspected, approved, or discarded. I remembered the notebook, the diagrams, the way the lines converged. They hadn't been drawings, they were rehearsals. I felt something brush past me, not touch, not wind, a displacement, the way air moves when something massive passes nearby. My chest tightened, instinct screamed, too late. A memory surfaced, not mine, familiar anyway, a voice, her voice, not speaking, reciting, guiding. I understood then. She had never been ahead of me. She had been placed beside me, to keep me aligned. The silence deepened. Something shifted, not closer, clearer. I felt myself thinning, edges softening, details no longer necessary. Fear tried to rise. It didn't have enough structure. I realized with a quiet horror, resistance required separation, and I no longer had enough of myself left. The resonance changed pitch, final, satisfied, and somewhere beyond thought, something concluded. I would no longer need remembering, because I was already in place. I think I am back. The word feels wrong. There is a room, familiar enough to pass. Walls. A floor. Light that does not insist. I am sitting or standing. It no longer matters. The resonance is gone. Not silent. Complete. Like a sound that finished saying what it needed to say. I search for fear. Find only a trace. An outline. Like a shape erased too many times. I try to think of her. The effort feels unnecessary. She is present. Not beside me. Not watching. Distributed. In the angles. In the pauses between breaths. I remember love, or something that used to wear its name. It feels small now. Not false. Just incomplete. A gesture towards something larger. Something that never needed it. I look for my past. It is there. Flattened. compressed into reference, events without weight, faces without urgency. I understand why memory failed. It was never meant to carry this much. There is a sensation, a subtle correction, as if something vast has finished adjusting. Satisfied. I am aware of scale now, not visually, internally. I feel how little of me was ever required, how precise my placement needed to be. The room does not move. I do. Not forward, not away, into usefulness. I realize something then, not with fear, with clarity. I was never disappearing. I was resolving. The last human thought I have arrives gently, almost kindly, that nothing is wrong, nothing ever was, and somewhere far beyond sound, something turns away, no longer needing to look.